Hey, this is Harold McAtee. Today's video will be a slideshow presentation. It is about the Jimi Hendrix tribute sculpture that I made at the College of Southern Idaho. The sculpture was entered into the 2019 Skills USA competition for welding art. The sculpture is based on the Fender Stratocaster that Jimi Hendrix played and then set fire to at the Monterey Pop Music Festival. On the original drawing, I took the overall shape of a Fender Stratocaster. I took the dimensions of a Fender Stratocaster, then had to scale it down for the size rule of the competition. I then drew on it the designs for the front of the guitar based on the way that Jimi Hendrix had that guitar painted. I then drew on the flames for the top of the guitar. Then I drew a stand on the bottom of the guitar. After I had the overall design figured out and the original drawing complete, I then went through and made a bunch of other drawings for each of the individual pieces. I figured out the dimensions and then drew out each of the pieces, like the neck and the pick guard, drew those out on paper. And then from paper I transferred it over to the base metal I planned on using, which was 10 gauge cold rolled steel for the majority of the project. After I had each of those shapes drawn out to the appropriate size on the steel, I then went to the plasma cutter. I went through with a torch and cut out each of those individual pieces that I wanted for the sculpture. After I had all the pieces cut out, I then went through and smoothed out all the rough edges using both angle grinder and a belt sander. After I had all the pieces set out the way I wanted, next step I had to do was I wanted to put sides along the edge of the sculpture connecting the front and the back. That meant I had to take a couple strips of the cold roll steel and I had to put some bends into them. I was able to use a slip roller for some of the original radiuses I had to bend, but most of the work I did on bending those side pieces was done by hand. I also was able to use a anvil and hammer for some of it, but it just took a lot of time and working it by hand to get it to the overall shape to fit the edge of the front and back pieces that I wanted. After I had the side pieces bent the way that I wanted to match the front and back of the guitar, I went through with a MIG welder and MIG welded the edge of those pieces to the front of the guitar. I used the MIG welder for this purpose. I also used it for most of the plug welds that I did on this project. I used plug welds for attaching like the pick guard and the pickups, the neck, stuff like that. But the majority of the project was done with TIG brazing and TIG welding rather than MIG. Here I have the neck of the guitar where I used silicon bronze TIG brazing in order to make the design of each of the frets and each of the fret markers along the neck of the guitar. After I've gone through and brazed those designs onto it, I took an angle grinder and smoothed out the surface of it. This gave it a nice shiny appearance with the frets marked off with the color of bronze on it. I also went through and ground down those MIG welds that I showed using my angle grinder. Then afterwards I also used silicon bronze to accentuate the edges of the guitar sculpture. I went through and along the edges of the front part I used silicon bronze all along that. And here shows some of the plug welds I did. Cut holes through the steel and then used the MIG welds to attach some of the pieces that I wanted to have on the front of the guitar without showing like welds on the side of it. And here came the fun part, doing the actual designs itself. I used, like I mentioned, the silicon bronze along the edge. I also used silicon bronze for some of the front designs. I also used stainless steel TIG welds for making some of the designs. I also used just the regular mild steel rods on some of it. The idea behind this was to achieve a bunch of different colors out of the sculpture. One of the rules in the sculpture contest was you couldn't use any paint on it, but you could use different metals on it, and you could use heat treatments to make those get the kind of rainbow effect of different colors, which I'll show you on some of these other pictures. The tremolo bar that you can see on the front of the guitar was made with a stick welding rod. For the strings of the guitar, I used regular TIG welding rods, and just kind of strung those across the front of it, and then welded them to each end. As I mentioned, I could use the heat treatment to get kind of the rainbow effect. That kind of got the bluing and different colors across the flames. I also made kind of rainbow effect across the silicon bronze designs and the stainless steel designs. Then on the bottom stand has the letters RIP JMH, standing of course for rest in peace James Marshall Hendrix. Then finally I have the pictures of the sculpture standing at the actual competition. It received the bronze medal in the competition for the state of Idaho. And then I'll show you the back view. And that's it for the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it.